we'll go ahead and get started. It's 5 o'clock. We're going to do a couple things tonight. Tonight we're going to watch a video about our trip, and it's not necessarily a picture video where I just show just picture after picture after picture. I actually took my camera with me while I was there, and I sat down with the church planners that were there and just tried to understand. That's what tonight is about, just understanding. The question that kept coming up through the whole trip was, well, how can we partner? How can we partner? But when I sat down with them, I said, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about how to partner. I need to understand what's going on here. And so I think that kind of the video sort of captures that. I've actually called it a documentary because it's a little bit more than just a video. To begin, Andy talked about Brother David this morning, and I captured it. So you can tell, that's probably about 20 feet away. Is that thing crossed? And that's him I think he's on FaceTime at that moment. FaceTime in the Buffalo with his boys or somebody, or maybe he's just video. I don't know. But he's a nut. But he's not the only nut. Because there's me trying to get the same buffalo that's right behind that little tree. If you see that little tree, and then I never did get super close, but then I got that pretty close. That's not magnified. That's how close I was to that one. So I guess we figured we would just jump on and ride if it came towards us. I don't know. But anyway, let me pray and let's get us started. Father, I just thank you so much for allowing us to see the world and the state of the things. And I say that thank you so that we know where we need to go and share the gospel. And Lord, I just pray that we would be faithful to do that, whether that's in South Dakota or whether that's elsewhere. I'm just thankful for you providing heavily gospel-centered partners to partner with. And so, Father, just to continue to teach us how to steward your gospel well, and just let us live it out. We pray in your Son's name. Amen. I wanted to explain a phrase because we've put out a good bit of content this last year, and that will continue to happen. We've got more videos to put out in the next year or two. When we first made the swap from me being youth and Ryan being children to families and discipleship and missions, I really didn't know what any of this was going to look like. But I felt like one of my callings in this was to share the story of people that would not tell it for themselves. And we've been able to do that. And then I kind of got a passion. Well, this started with making dumb videos for the youth. And they didn't really like them. They didn't appreciate them, but I enjoyed them. Me and Andy Tudor enjoyed sitting back there watching them. But they were just goofy videos, just bumper videos for the service. And then I got in this role, and I don't remember what it was. I think it was when we filmed Mill Creek and then Coach going to jail ministry. And I said, we could do this. We could tell stories like this. And I think people will watch them. And so everything's just kind of gone from there. Anyway, so just to explain, WHBC Missions Media, if you see that phrase on anything that we do, this is specifically a division within West Heights. A lot of this is me, but there are people, we've got people that watch these videos that I put out about 1,000 times before they're ready to be, yeah, that's good. One of them's in the room, Tori watches everything that I put together and gives me really harsh critiques. And I ask her to because she knows I can take it, but the product is so much better when people critique your work. The Missions Magazine, we have people that edit that and do proofreading and all kind of things. And so much more than just Casey. Missions Media, WHBC Missions Media is a big conglomerate of volunteers that you may or may not ever see to put that stuff out. And so we pray that shares the story of what God is doing through you and through this church. I think originally it probably started as much for shut-ins and folks that couldn't get here, but I don't know where the Lord's going to take this. We will see. So saying that, there's one phrase in here we're about to watch the video, but there's one phrase that I say in the very beginning, because I narrated this one. Usually I get Alan too. That's another person that's a part of WHP Missions Media that you'll never see, but you always hear his voice, and that's Alan. I did this one because I'm telling the story of us going. But I say something about there's darkness there, but it's not. There's darkness here, but it's not like there. I say that phrase. We're going to talk about what that means in a minute, but I just wanted to highlight that. So here we go. This is the video. This is what 1 Peter 2:9 says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into marvelous light." I think sometimes when we think of short-term mission trips, we think of vacations. And I'm not saying you guys do that, but just in general, that seems to be the idea is, oh, those people are going to go do a little work and then they're going to get away for a little while. My prayer is as we continue to talk about the people that we're partnering with, these ain't no vacations. And I use that word ain't very, very specifically. These ain't no vacations. There was a line in there where Chris was the one with the shorter hair. Chris said, "I was told this, but this was a darkness I'd never experienced. This was a evil or something." I don't remember what all he said. And I've got to admit, that's the way it was when we went. I did not know what to expect. I did know that there was an alcohol problem. But that's really all I knew going into it. And it's not. So, sorry, I've just got some notes, and we're going to work through a few of the pictures. Just a couple of things. I described it as an onion, and that's true. Because even, did you catch the line he said about the res dogs? As long as there's not dogs. He said, I asked him if he could walk these communities, and a dog was what he mentioned. He didn't mention people. He didn't even mention the devil. He mentioned dogs. Like, that's a real deal for them there. She said she can hardly even take her trash to the road because of these, what they call res dogs, that are wild dogs, and some of them are people's dogs, just snapping at people for no reason, walking around in little gangs, attacking people. It's kind of like when you go to Central or South America, that happens. The onion is thick. Like, there's layers there that doesn't have anything to do with alcohol. The fact that you can't approach people because of the dogs walking around. And then I said there's darkness here, but there's darkness everywhere. This is different there. We're going to see that. Let's get into some of these pictures. I want to look at some of these pictures. This is most of the reservation. We were up on a hill. The church is actually on that hill. That's why they call it Hilltop Baptist, looking down over the reservation. It looks nice from there. You saw some of the streets in the video. It's not so nice, but this is it. This is the picture of their church. It's from the front, Hilltop Baptist. I get the feeling that this is probably one of the nicer buildings of any of the reservations out there, and I think it's because it's been recently redone, and that's why. But that's a extremely nice building for them. All right, so I want to get into a couple of things. Generational dysfunction. That's a phrase I use when I talk about our community. People in our community have generational dysfunction, meaning it's passed down from generation to generation, and it seems like unless God intervenes, it just kind of gets worse with each generation. We're in foster care. You guys are involved in other types of places in the community. Some of you are teachers. If you're a teacher in the room, would you say there is generational dysfunction in our community? Would you agree with that statement? Yeah, I think so. This is what I thought when I went. These are the things I knew. I knew there was alcohol abuse. I knew there was gambling. I knew there was fatherlessness, because you can basically say that about everywhere. I knew there was drugs. I didn't know there was meth, but I did know there was drugs. And I knew they had some education problems. And all of those, except for maybe the gambling. I don't know that we see gambling as a big deal here in Pontotoc. But would you agree that we see those here, right? Got alcohol abuse. There's fatherlessness. There's drugs. You may believe that or you may not believe it, but there's a lot of hard drugs and there's a lot of soft drugs here. In education, our schools are not the problem with that. We've got great schools. Most of that comes in from other avenues. But education, I would say that. This is what I found, though. And notice the other, what was it, 5? The other 6 are not even on there, I don't think. I think I took them all off. Those other 6 qualify too. But this is what I began to find. Because Friday night we spent with the pastor, with the families, eating supper, and he shared about things, and then Saturday morning he shared about things, and then Saturday afternoon, I don't know if I say I ran everybody off, but I got everybody that was with us gone, and I just sat down with the pastors, and we talked on camera, and that's what you see. But as we begin to peel back the onion, these are in no particular order. Each one of these is a layer of the onion after we've really already taken off the drugs and alcohol. Like, all that does is make everything else worse. That's not really the problem. And so we have sexual abuse just because of the nature. Do we have any small children in here? We got a couple younger ones in here. We won't go into too much of that. But basically, Daddy comes back into town to get the paycheck and do other bad things. Monthly is what that is. The inability to take care of their facilities and their automobiles. Because of the way the tribe works, they don't just necessarily get given that stuff, but there's a lot of incentives. They give, there's grants and things like that. So basically, they get it for free, which turns into grown folks that don't know how to take care of their stuff. For instance, he said that there was a house, because Chris does a lot of labor around. He does a lot of renovating and that sort of thing, and he also does plumbing. That dude does a ton of stuff. He is a very capable guy. He said that their septic tank will get stopped up because they don't know how to take care of it, and they'll just continue using whatever facilities in the house that they can continue to use, and they will not call anybody, because why would you take care of stuff like that? It's just where they're at in their mind. There's automobiles, they get a new one every year, and so everywhere you drive, there's broke down automobiles that have been robbed of everything on them, just everywhere. Misunderstandings about God and grace. You heard him talk about that, but that is a big deal. Because within their world, there's 2 phenomenons going on at once. One, they think they know God because they know the God that created everything, built in within their religion. And so foundationally, even though they think they're close to God, they're very, very far away. There's an identity crisis. You heard that in what Elijah said of how are you going to tell someone not to do drugs because you'll mess up your life, when a future is not even in there. It's not that they don't believe it, they just don't even have a category in their brain for a future because of the generations of this mess happening over and over again. A victim mentality. What we see there is that the white man stole everything. And I'm not trying to be provocative when I say that. I mean, that's what they call Christianity, is white man's religion. And so there's this social aspect of it, of what happened a couple hundred years ago and how they still live under the oppression of that and under the slavery of that. There's a lack of parental presence. It was interesting to me that Elijah said you kind of bounce around and then you don't even know your parents. You just may live at your grandparents' house. But then I got to thinking of it, because what he told me was the grandparents are not any more reliable. So it's not like here, where if your parents are rotten and you go stay with your grandparents and they're believers and they have an influence. No, the grandparents are not any different than the parents. And their parents were not any different. Like, you've got generations of this stuff, and so you start trying to wonder, why is this going on? It's all they know. I mean, this chaos that's around them is all they know. There's tribal dependency, just welfare kind of stuff. Animism and syncretism. Animism is they believe that animals have spirits or that objects have spirits within them. This is some of the cliche stuff that you probably do know about Indian culture. Syncretism is this bringing in anything and everything that's spiritual to add, almost like Hinduism, where they're adding more gods to their collection. You heard that when he said karma's everywhere on the res and revenge is everywhere. Basically what he's saying is that as long as you don't go in and say, this is the only God, no other gods, they'll just add it right to the collection. I didn't realize that. I didn't know that happened within their culture. Legalism, meaning they're just really based off of give me 5 rules that I can work to get to God and I'm good. Like I just need some clear-cut guidance on how to get to God. and I can only do these things. Hopelessness, self-explanatory, suicide, and careless murder. Chris told me that they had 11 deaths in the last month that were under the age of 25. 7 of them were suicide. 2 of them were just a guy showed up at a party and killed a couple people because he just got upset. He was drunk and got upset. And then the others were just car accidents or something. What got me, though, is he said that's like a monthly thing. We're not talking about like every once in a while. It's like a monthly thing. It's heavy. Do you feel the heaviness of this? You feel the darkness of this? When I say we see darkness here, but it's not like there, there's situations in our school system that you probably have seen of just a family. I mean, I heard Adam Carnes called me about one the other day of just something he had heard about, and we're trying to work through it, and just the awful things that have been done to that child. It happens. It happens here. Alcoholism happens here. Drugs happen here. All those things happen here. Murder happens here. But what got me is that it's every house on the block there. It's every family in the community. It's like 95% of the people are affected by this, if not participating in this, because of the generations of over and over and over again, because of how they started, because of the darkness. I personally think me and Chris talked about this, not the Native American reservations that are near us geographically here. I don't know that they're quite as dark as these are. And I think it's just because they're so far. I mean, we had to drive 2 hours to get out there to the hotel and then 30 minutes to get even to the reservation from there. And so I think maybe that has something to do with it. You know, the presence of God's people seems to change things, even if there's not a direct result. It's almost kind of, there's a light that shines into the darkness. It's dark there. Stuck out. But I want to talk about some good things. I don't want to just leave here talking about all the bad. If you want to hear about all the bad, I'll give you Chris's number and you can call him. He can tell you about it for days. But here's some of the good stuff. Horses. They bought these horses. Well, for one, there's, equine therapy? They say it really works to help people work through their emotions and their anxiety and those types of things by petting the horses and helping take care of the horses and even riding the horses. But they also did it as a ministry because people love animals. Like, you'd be walking by and see the horses. Come on in, come see our horses, and come ride the horses if you want to. Well, let's talk about the creator of these horses. And so this was kind of a neat thing. There's another one I got of that horse. I don't know any of these horses' names, but that was a really pretty horse. He had some really pretty horses, and he'd got a truck and a trailer to be able to carry them around and do that. This is one of the ways, he was talking about in the video, that takes time and that takes relationship because they're not coming in these doors. This is a way to get people near without them coming inside the church. We actually saw that personally. There was people coming up to ask for help, but they would not come in the church doors. They wouldn't do it. Here's another way. A sewing machine. Kylie is going to begin teaching sewing classes for people. And so that will be a way of that one actually gets them inside the doors. But the bigger thing is that she gets to be with ladies of the community where she begins to teach them a skill. So we have this humanitarian part of it where they're learning a skill to raise themselves up, but at the same time, they're having gospel conversations. None of this stuff is groundbreaking, right? I mean, this is not revolutionary stuff. It's just simple things that are intentionally used. Here's another one. Raised garden beds. They're going to begin producing stuff for the community that they could have, but also to bring classes in to be able to learn how to grow stuff. This is one of the projects that he has on his plate, is to put this all together as another raised bed. So I thought that was really neat. If you want to follow them, here's you a QR code. Now their Facebook is that picture with the guy in the blue, the guy standing in front of there was several Hilltop Baptists, so I wanted to make sure that you could see which one it is. What questions do you have? Everybody that we talk to, you do. Now, they do speak their native language some, but at this point, they call that colonized. They've been colonized. So. The res dogs, you'd have to drive around. You could drive around, and we talked about that. I don't know how to take what he said. He said that the white vans have been a problem. And he talked about these white vans, and some of the white vans were churches that have come up there to fill their egos and do a good VBS and then skedaddle and never come back again. He also mentioned that the people feel like the white vans come for their children. So I don't know what he meant by that. I don't know if he means spiritually they saved their children out of their Indian religion, and so it felt like taking their children, or if it's something darker, I don't know. So saying that, it's not best for a bunch of us to just go up there and ride around in a white van praying. That's not the best way to do that. But I think as we take trips, maybe possibly take trips, I think prayer driving, because we actually talked about that on the trip. Prayer driving around would be good, but not walk. Yeah, and my understanding, they weren't leaving the reservation. They just gotten kicked out or they died, one or the other. And so they just sort of bouncing around. Think of the worst case scenario rental property around here, and that's kind of what the feeling was, is that it just kind of bounces around, and if they break the windows, they just board them up, and then someone like Chris comes in and renovates the house again, and then they rent it again. I asked that question, and I didn't get a complete answer. It sounds like there's some individuals that do. It sounds like some of it is the tribe owns. Just kind of a conglomerate. Because I never could actually get a handle on that for sure. And it's probably complicated. It's probably what it is. Yes, that is a big deal for them. In fact, that was one of the highlights of the weekend, is hearing about that, because they come from all over. They call themselves the First Nations Association, and it's basically there's a Southern Baptist church on each tribe, on each reservation up there, and they kind of all come together for that camp. Is it Oklahoma, I believe, where the camp is? And that's a huge deal for them, and it's expensive too. It's not just $35 a kid, what I found out. I mean, they have to rent a van for like $8,000. Or something, plus pay for their extra. Basically, what they do is they make it affordable for the kids, which is still not affordable. He still is asking for money for the kids, and then they fund the rest of it that has to happen. And so that may be next. As we move into next summer, that may be a way we can partner with them, is to take on some of that burden. And he said that it's pretty well done. They're doing it themselves, but it's well done, and it gives the kids a break from reality to hear truth, and to kind of let it sink in. So, yeah, it's a big deal for them. They talked about that quite a bit, that camp. It's just a summer camp, just like our kids go to. But like Rocky and his church do, those local churches band together to put their own camp on, and it ends up being a really good experience for the kids. I got the feeling that showing up and continuing to show up will be big. Not necessarily coming a bunch of times. But if we say, like in October, we say, yeah, we're going to come fix that. Well, we actually go and fix that. And then next year, if we say we're going to do something, actually showing up. I got the feeling that that's going to be big. Not necessarily that we're out there every month, all the time. It's just not practical. But I got the feeling that was the case, and as we go, we take. I've got specific faces of people in this church that I could see going and loving on a bunch of kids, and then the next year when they go, they come running to them. That's the kind of thing that's meaningful, and it's not all bad. Like we were never felt. Nobody ever told us to get away or get off the reservation. It wasn't that terrible, but it's just a layer of the onion. Lewis Harrell, y'all know Lewis. Some of y'all know Lewis Harrell. You know, he said a lot on the trip, and some of it was really funny. But one of the things he said that was not so funny, Andy was asking everybody, "What do y'all think? What do you think about here? How we could partner here?" And Lewis said, "I don't know. I don't know if we need a partner or not, but I've seen too much, and I just don't think I can walk away from this knowing what I know." And that's sort of the way I felt. So saying that, Andy told me this morning, I don't think this is secret knowledge, Andy told me this morning that a group led by Drake out of Ecru is talking about going in October and putting a roof on. If that's something you're in, that's short notice, you're not going to stay in a hotel, it's not going to be glamorous, you're going to drive straight up there, you're going to work through the day, you're going to sleep on a cot, you're going to work through another day, and then drive back. It's going to be a tough trip. But if something you're interested in helping with, let me know, and I'll connect you with Andy and Drake. And if they do go, I'm hoping they do, because this will be a piece of the puzzle of whether we should partner with the tribes up there. And it sounds like it's already happening. If Drake and them go, it will be already happening. So to give y'all the backstory to this, we're done in Minnesota. Not that we've just thrown our hands up of it, but our time is done there. The association up there has taken over the church that we planted in Minnesota. And so Andy has come along and said, well, where do we go to next, Lord? What do we do next? That was the reason we went up there, is to pray through, is this the place that we begin to partner? Nobody had a clear answer when we left there on that. I think we were all just in shock, because I don't think any of us expected to see what we saw. The neat thing about this is the Lord seems to be already orchestrating that. If we do send a team, if the association does send a team up there, and it's also different than we thought, because this may be a partnership with that entire association of First Nation churches instead of just Lower Brule. We would be with Lower Brule, but because Chris kept pushing for that, it seemed like. He kept saying, well, you know, there's other churches here, and you know, there's other. He kept mentioning it, and then we found out that he's the leader of the First Nations Association, and so it was interesting to see our vision this big, and God opening that up, this vision to this big, possibly. So, what's my gut? I don't know. I don't want to promise anything. I'm not sure, but it does seem like it's unfolding.